Hey yo, it's you dude. It's that guy. We're gonna talk about chapter 12. We're gonna talk about chapter 12, and we're gonna do all that shit. So basically, 1840s, 1850s, leading up to Civil War. We got a whole shit ton of people coming in. We got a lot of shit that's going on. We got Chinese people coming in. Originally, we wanted Chinese people to come in because they were good workers, but eventually we realized they were good workers and they were taking our jobs, and we're like, what the fuck Chinese workers. So that just kind of happened, and then now we have Chinese American immigrants making communities here and like doing shit. So that was pretty cool. We also had like Irish people come. Like, we always had Irish people coming, but even more came after the Great Famine of 1845 to 1850 when all the potatoes died. And so they moved over here. And since they were Catholic, a lot of people hated them, which sucked. Germans also came, and Americans hated them too, which sucked. And like, there's a whole political party called the Know Nothing Party, created because like, if anybody was asked about the party, they were told to say, "I know nothing," and they were basically an anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant party, which sucked. Yeah. Oh yeah, and like, the Irish people came over on these things called coffin ships, because like, most of the people died there. Yeah. Oh, and all those old Mexican territories that we just got? Well, there happened to be Mexican people living on them, and they got treated like second-class citizens, which sucked. Yeah. Basically, just got land stolen, they got randomly lynched, crazy shit like that. In fact, the term vigilante came from the committees of vigilance in the California mining camps, which was basically just a bunch of white Americans going around killing Mexicans and other immigrants. Yeah. Oh yeah, slavery was the thing. You already know how slavery works, so I don't have to tell you about it. There was also this thing called the Liberty Party and the Free Soil Party, which like tried to have anti-slavery presidential candidates, but they failed. And like, Southern slaveholders went like, "Oh no, slavery's so cool. It's so nice. It Christianized these heathen Africans and all that shit. You should support us. This is fine. Everything is fine. It's better than that factory slavery you've got up there. They're much better." So yeah. Oh yeah, since you couldn't like import slaves, like slaves were valuable, so like they tried to keep them alive and tried to treat them better. But I mean, they were still slaves, and they treated them pretty shittily still anyway. So yeah. Let's see. Bad slave conditions. Ah, yes. Running away. That was the thing that happened. Like, this guy named Joseph Taper and this other person named Harry Jacobs. And they used this shit called the Underground Railroad that let people run away. It was pretty hard to use. You had to find the right railroad. And if you went into a decoy railroad, you got fucked. But like Frederick Douglass got away, and there's that person named Harriet Tubman that even went back to help other people get away in the Underground Railroad. And that was pretty cool. But people didn't just run away, they also did slave revolts and shit, which was pretty crazy. Like that time where there's this guy named Denmark Vesey who like was planning a revolt, but then they got caught, so they didn't revolt. But this guy named Nat Turner did a revolt, and it was kind of successful. They killed a lot of people, but then they all got killed. And then he confessed all of his stuff to an attorney, which turned into the Confessions of Nat Turner, like a book. It was pretty cool, I guess. And like, even Northern black and white abolitionists called for resistance. That was a thing. Oh, and speaking of white abolitionists, there's plenty, like that guy named William Lloyd Garrison, who made that thing called the Liberator and helped found the American Anti-Slavery Society, which was pretty cool, I guess. he also befriended people like, Frederick Douglass. And he also, like, did crazy shit, like doing public burnings of the Fugitive Slave Act and the Constitution, since the Constitution allowed slavery. It was pretty crazy. Oh yeah, and there was also this guy named Theodore Dwight Weld, who like saw that religious people were, reviving religion and like activating shit, and so he's like, we gotta get like anti-slavery revivalists on that shit, and so he did. Yeah. Oh yeah, women's rights were a thing too. Like, people started fighting even stronger for women's rights. Like, there was these letters from like this person named Sarah Grimke, who wrote letters about how women were equal, man. Like, what the fuck? And so, yeah. And then also people like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, and then even other people like Susan B. Anthony and Matilda Gage did shit, starting with the Seneca Falls Women's Rights Convention, where they all signed a declaration that women were equal, which is pretty obvious, but it wasn't obvious to the peoples back then. So they did. They wrote a declaration, they had a convention. It was pretty cool. It was the beginning of a whole new start, fresh new start, or something. And there was all the other people that started joining on this cool shit, like this person named Lucy Stone that actually graduated from a college. That was pretty cool. And like also this person named Antoinette Brown Blackwell that became a minister, and Elizabeth Blackwell that got an MD degree. And there's this person named Amelia Bloomer who like tried to popularize some kind of trousers that bloomed out. It was pretty crazy. And also, women started getting the right to own their own property, which was pretty neat. Because, when your man goes bankrupt, you don't want to go bankrupt. Because becoming bankrupt sucks. Oh yeah, and women's rights and anti-slavery efforts, those were all like pretty much interconnected, because people fighting for women's rights often fought for abolition and vice versa. So yeah. There's a thing about Sojourner Truth, like being inspirational and shit. At the very end. That's at another women's rights convention. And that's it. That's this chapter. Have fun. Good night.